The first strike. The Confederation battleship Eternal Dominion dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, its massive hull gleaming under the distant starlight. Fleet Commander Tharthol stood on the command deck, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he observed the blue-green planet through the main viewport. Earth, the latest target for Confederation expansion, and what should have been an easy conquest. Primitive defenses detected, Commander reported Sub-Lieutenant Vess from her sensor station. Their orbital platforms appear to be using basic kinetic weapons and low-yield energy shields. Xarthol's mouthplates clicked in amusement. Another backwater world that hadn't even mastered proper gravitic weaponry. The reports from the infiltration teams had painted a clear picture. A young species that had barely reached their orbital bodies, with limited understanding of faster-than-light travel. They would either submit to Confederation rule or be subjugated like countless others before them. "Send the standard ultimatum," he ordered. "Give them one planetary rotation to respond." But the response came much faster than expected. Within minutes, a transmission cut through their communications channels with perfect clarity, something that should have been impossible given Earth's supposed level of technology. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force," a calm human voice announced. "We reject your ultimatum. Leave our space immediately, or face the consequences." Laughter rippled through the command deck. Tharthol himself felt his secondary heart flutter with amusement. Such bravado from a species that couldn't possibly understand what they faced. His fleet numbered over 300 ships, each one carrying weapons that could reduce cities to ash. "Launch the first wave," he commanded. "Standard subjugation pattern. Let's show them what real power looks like." The first wave of Confederation fighters streamed from their carrier ships, their formation perfect after centuries of unchanged tactical doctrine. They approached Earth's orbital defense platforms, expecting minimal resistance. That's when everything changed. The primitive defense platforms suddenly shifted, their outer shells falling away to reveal something entirely different underneath. Where there had been simple kinetic weapons, now stood arrays of technology that even Tharthol didn't recognize. "Commander," Vess's voice carried an edge of panic. "We're detecting massive energy signatures, but they don't match any known weapons profile." Before Xarthol could respond, space itself seemed to twist around his fighter squadrons. The carefully maintained formation shattered as localized gravity wells appeared and disappeared, tossing ships around like leaves in a storm. Half of the fighters were disabled before they could even fire a shot. "Impossible," Tharthol breathed. "They're using controlled microsingularities as weapons." The humans weren't done. Their own ships emerged from behind their moon, vessels that looked nothing like the crude rockets their infiltrators had reported. These ships moved with impossible grace, using maneuvers that violated everything Tharthol knew about space combat. "Multiple targets locked," Vess shouted. They're targeting our shield frequency modulators. How could they possibly know about?" Tharthol's question died in his throat as precise beams of energy struck his ships exactly where they were most vulnerable. Shields that had withstood bombardments from the galaxy's most advanced weapons flickered and failed under the human assault. As his fleet began to fall into chaos, Tharthol received another transmission from Admiral Chen. This time, he could hear the steel beneath her calm tone. "We studied you for decades while you thought we were primitive," she said. "Every piece of technology you carelessly displayed, every battle tactic you never bothered to change, every weakness you never thought to fix because you believed yourselves superior. We learned from it all. This is your final warning. Leave, or find out what else we've been preparing for you." Xarthol stared at the tactical display, watching as more of his ships reported critical damage. Everything they knew about Earth had been wrong. This wasn't a primitive civilization ready for conquest. It was a sleeping giant that had been quietly preparing for this very moment. "All ships, emergency retreat," he ordered, his pride crumbling in the face of this unprecedented defeat. "Fall back to Confederation space." As the Eternal Dominion limped away from Earth, Harfel knew the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity hadn't just survived first contact with the Confederation. They had shattered the myth of its invincibility. And this, he realized with growing dread, was probably just the beginning. In her command center on Luna Base, Admiral Chen watched the Confederation fleet retreat, their once perfect formation now a scattered mess of damaged ships. "Send word to all posts," she ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin preparations for Phase 2. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what they were capable of. Hidden strengths. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the heart of Facility Zero, Earth's most classified research center, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Through the reinforced observation window, she watched as automated systems assembled another gravity manipulation core, technology that had turned the tide in humanity's first major space battle. To think, she mused to her colleague, Dr. James Chen, 20 years ago, we were still trying to understand their basic shield frequencies. She tapped the window, indicating the Confederation destroyer that had been carefully hidden here after its crash landing in 2042. They never even came looking for it. James nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays showing real-time battle analysis from the recent engagement. Their arrogance was always their biggest weakness. They assumed any civilization that hadn't independently developed their level of technology must be inferior. The facility's main doors slid open with a soft hiss as Admiral Chen entered, still wearing her combat uniform from the Luna Command Center. "The Confederation Council is in emergency session," she announced, joining them at the window. "Apparently, our little demonstration has caused quite a stir." Maya wasn't surprised. She'd spent half her life studying Confederation technology, finding ways to adapt and improve it using principles they'd never considered. "How long until they return?" "Intelligence suggests 2 weeks, maybe less," Sarah replied. "They'll bring everything they have this time. No more testing the waters." James pulled up another holographic display, this one showing the status of Earth's hidden fleet. Dozens of ships appeared as green dots scattered throughout the solar system, each one incorporating technology that the Confederation wouldn't expect for another century at least. "The gravity cores are performing better than projected," Maya reported, gesturing to the production line below. "The Confederation's rigid shield geometry makes them particularly vulnerable to localized space-time distortions. They never adapted their designs because they never faced an enemy who could manipulate gravity with such precision." "And the quantum entanglement network?" Sarah asked. James smiled. "Fully operational. While they're still relying on traditional FTL communications, we can coordinate our entire fleet instantly. No lag, no interference, no way for them to intercept or jam our signals." The Admiral nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "Speaking of signals, show her what we picked up during the battle, James." A new hologram sprang to life, showing complex patterns of energy emissions from the Confederation ships. Their weapons, their shields, even their engines, everything operates on predictable frequencies, James explained. "They haven't substantially changed their basic technology in over 300 years. Why would they? It was always good enough." Maya studied the patterns, her mind already working on potential countermeasures. "They've forgotten how to innovate," she realized. "They've been at the top for so long, they've lost the drive to improve." "Exactly," Sarah agreed. "While they were busy maintaining their empire, humanity was doing what it does best, adapting, improving, finding new ways to solve old problems. We took their technology and made it our own." A alert chimed softly, drawing their attention to another display. The quantum sensors they'd secretly stationed throughout nearby star systems were showing movement. The Confederation was mobilizing forces on a massive scale. "They're calling in their entire reserve fleet," Sarah observed. "Over 1,000 ships. They mean to make an example of us." But Maya wasn't worried. She touched a control panel, bringing up the schematics for Project Phoenix. Humanity's ultimate insurance policy. Let them come, she said quietly. They still haven't seen what we can really do. In the production facility below, another gravity core came online, its controlled quantum fluctuations causing tiny ripples in space-time. Similar facilities around the world were running at full capacity, preparing for the real war to come. The Confederation thought they'd seen humanity's best weapons, but they hadn't even scratched the surface. We should show them Project Prometheus, James suggested, pulling up yet another classified file. The timing might be right. Sarah studied the technical specifications with a whistle. You actually got it working. A device that can temporarily disable FTL travel in a localized area. Maya nodded. Tested it last month in the Kuiper Belt. Creates a bubble of altered space-time where their drive systems simply can't function. Once they're trapped in normal space, our gravity weapons will be even more effective. And they won't see it coming, Sarah added. Because as far as they know, manipulating the fundamental properties of space itself should be centuries beyond our capability. The three of them stood in silence for a moment, watching the assembly of humanity's advanced weapons continue below. Everything they'd done, the decades of secret preparation, the careful misdirection, the patient reverse engineering of Confederation technology, had been building to this moment. Send word to all research facilities, Sarah finally ordered. Full production protocol is now active. And Maya, start waking up the Phoenix prototypes. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just ready to join their community. We're ready to reshape it. Maya finished, already entering the activation codes. In orbit high above them, Earth's fleet continued to grow stronger, incorporating technologies that the Confederation couldn't even imagine. The next battle wouldn't just be about survival. It would be about showing the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength wasn't the weapons they'd built, but their endless capacity to innovate and adapt. The real question was, how would the Confederation react when they realized just how badly they'd underestimated their primitive opponents? The counterattack. Captain Marcus Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the EDF Hyperion as the massive Confederation fleet emerged from FTL travel. Their ships filled the void between Jupiter and Saturn, over 1,000 vessels strong, the largest armada ever assembled in the Sol system. They certainly didn't waste time, his XO, Commander Diana Walsh, remarked dryly. Looks like they brought friends. Marcus nodded, studying the tactical display. The Confederation ships were arranging themselves into their traditional battle formation, a three-dimensional grid that had conquered countless civilizations. But this time, something was different. Their movements were more cautious, their spacing wider than usual. They're adapting, he observed, spreading out to minimize the effect of our gravity weapons. A quantum ping from Luna Command appeared instantly on his neural interface. Admiral Chen's voice echoed in his mind through the entanglement network. All ships, Operation Prometheus is now active. Execute on my mark. Marcus felt a surge of anticipation. The Confederation thought they were preparing for a defensive battle. They had no idea they were actually flying into a trap decades in the making. Engineering reports all systems ready, Diana announced. Project Phoenix units are standing by. The massive Confederation fleet continued its advance, their formation perfect despite their adjusted spacing. Their caution would make no difference. Humanity had planned for this moment since they first discovered the crash destroyer that revealed the existence of alien life. Admiral Chen to all ships. The quantum network pulsed. Execute Prometheus. Phase 1. Begin. Throughout the solar system, hidden facilities activated their quantum field generators. Space itself seemed to shiver as overlapping waves of distorted reality spread outward. The Confederation fleet suddenly found itself trapped in a bubble of altered spacetime, where their FTL drives couldn't function. Enemy ships are registering drive failures across their entire fleet, Diana reported, satisfaction evident in her voice. They're trying to compensate, but now for the real surprise, Marcus said quietly. Launch Phoenix Squadrons. All ships, Execute Phase 2. From concealed hangars across the solar system, humanity's latest weapons emerge. They looked like fighters at first glance, but these vessels were something entirely new, hybrid craft that combined Confederation technology with human innovations in ways their enemies couldn't comprehend. The Phoenix units accelerated toward the trapped Confederation fleet, their gravity drives allowing them to ignore traditional physics. Each one carried a scaled-down version of the quantum field generator that had disabled the enemy's FTL capabilities. "Enemy fleet is launching fighters," Diana announced. "They're trying to establish a defensive screen." Marcus watched as the Confederation fighters moved to intercept the Phoenix squadrons. They were in for a nasty surprise. All Phoenix units initiate metamorphosis protocols. The hybrid fighters suddenly transformed, their structures flowing like liquid metal as they reconfigured themselves mid-flight. What had appeared to be conventional spacecraft became something else entirely, artificial gravity wells given physical form, capable of changing their shape and properties at will. The Confederation fighters opened fire, their energy weapons passing harmlessly through the metamorphic vessels. The Phoenix units responded by literally reaching out with tendrils of controlled gravitational force, crushing their opponents or tearing them apart at the atomic level. "Main Confederation fleet is attempting to retreat," Diana reported, "but they're still trapped in the Prometheus field. Their conventional drives are only managing 10% of normal thrust." Marcus opened a channel to all Earth forces. "All ships, advance. Operation Lightbringer is now in effect." Earth's fleet moved forward in perfect coordination, their positions calculated by quantum computers that could process the entire battlefield as a single equation. The Confederation's rigid formation, already stressed by their inability to retreat, began to break apart under the human assault. The Phoenix units struck from all directions, their fluid forms allowing them to bypass traditional defenses. Confederation shields, designed to repel energy and matter, had no answer for weapons that could manipulate the fabric of space itself. "Enemy flagship is requesting communication," Diana announced suddenly. "Their admiral wants to discuss terms." Marcus shared a knowing look with his XO. "Remind me, Commander, what were the terms they offered us when they first arrived?" "Immediate surrender or complete annihilation," she replied with a grim smile. "Patch them through to Luna Command," Marcus ordered. "Let Admiral Chen handle the diplomacy. We have a battle to finish." The fighting continued for another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt. Without their FTL capabilities, and faced with weapons they couldn't understand or counter, the mighty Confederation fleet was systematically dismantled. When it was over, Marcus stood on his bridge, watching the cleanup operations begin. Disabled Confederation ships hung in space like broken toys, their crews being evacuated by Earth vessels that had, until recently, been dismissed as primitive. "Message from Luna Command," Diana reported. "Admiral Chen says Phase 3 is ready to begin. We're to prepare for long-range operations." Marcus nodded. The defense of Earth had been impressive, but it was just the beginning. Humanity had spent decades preparing not just to protect themselves, but to reshape the galaxy's balance of power. "Send word to all ships," he ordered. "Begin preparation for FTL transit. It's time to take the fight to them." The EDF Hyperion's quantum drive spooled up, its hybrid technology representing humanity's unique approach to space travel. They had learned from the Confederation's technology, but they had improved upon it in ways their enemies couldn't imagine. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy that innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to challenge conventional wisdom were more powerful than any weapon. The Confederation was about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history overcoming seemingly impossible odds. Political upheaval. The Grand Hall of the Confederation Council gleamed under its crystalline dome, but today the usual splendor was overshadowed by chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the chamber with a cacophony of voices, clicks, and electromagnetic pulses as they argued over the unprecedented military disaster in the Sol system. High Counselor Vextra of the Arcturian Dominion, her iridescent scales dulled with stress, watched the proceedings with mounting concern. For 10,000 years, the Confederation had maintained its power through technological superiority and unwavering military might. Now, a supposedly primitive species had not only defeated their finest fleet, but had demonstrated technologies that should have been impossible. The humans must be contained, thundered Representative Koldur of the Regellian Empire, his massive form towering over the central podium. We should commit our entire military strength to crushing them before. Before what? Interrupted Ambassador Lai Wei of Earth, her holographic form appearing suddenly in the center of the chamber. Before more of your ships disappear into the quantum storms we've seeded throughout your supply lines. A shocked murmur rippled through the assembly. The humans weren't supposed to have access to the council chamber's secure transmission systems, let alone the ability to project a hologram with such clarity across interstellar distances. This is an outrage. Koldur bellowed. This primitive dares to. Primitive. Lai Wei smiled. Your Empire's ships are currently stranded in 37 different star systems, unable to engage their FTL drives. Your colonies are cut off from resupply, and your automated defense networks have been compromised. Would you like me to continue listing what these primitives have accomplished? Vextra raised her ceremonial staff, calling for order. Ambassador Lai Wei, your presence here is irregular. But given the circumstances, perhaps it is time for honest dialogue. What are Earth's demands? The human ambassador's hologram turned to face her. Demands. No, High Counselor. We're here to offer choices. Humanity has no interest in destroying the Confederation. We're here to change it. With a gesture, Lai Wei produced another hologram. A real-time strategic display of Confederation space. Red dots mark the positions of stranded fleets and compromised installations. The scale of the human operation was staggering. As we speak, Lai Wei continued, Earth ships are establishing quantum communication relays throughout Confederation space. We're offering free access to any member species that wishes to join the new galactic cooperative we're proposing. Preposterous. Koldur interjected. The smaller races would never. Actually, interrupted Representative Shen of the Proxima colonies, their crystalline form shimming with excitement. We've already received the technical specifications. The human's quantum network is far superior to the Confederation's current communication systems. We're prepared to join immediately. One by one, other representatives began to signal their interest, particularly the younger species that had long chafed under the dominance of the Confederation's founding races. This is rebellion. Koldur roared. We'll crush any who dare to. The hologram shifted, showing a live feed from Rigel Prime. Hovering above the Regellian capital was an Earth vessel unlike anything they'd seen before. Its fluid, metamorphic structure rippled with barely contained gravitational energy. That's the EDF Hyperion, Lai Wei explained calmly. Currently demonstrating our ability to bypass your most sophisticated planetary defenses. We could have chosen military targets, but we wanted to make a point. The old power structure is over. It's time for something new. Vextra studied the human ambassador carefully. And if we refuse this cooperative, then you'll find yourself increasingly isolated as more races join us. We're not here to conquer or destroy. We're here to accelerate progress. The Confederation has stagnated, clinging to technological and political systems that haven't evolved in millennia. Humanity is offering a chance to change that. The chamber erupted in discussion again, but this time the tone was different. Younger races were openly declaring their support for the human initiative, while the older powers found themselves facing a choice between adaptation or irrelevance. There's something else you should know, Lai Wei added, her hologram displaying another tactical overlay. We've discovered 3 pre-FTL civilizations in Confederation space that you've been monitoring for potential conquest. We've already established contact and offered them protection under the cooperative. They've accepted. Vextra felt the last pillars of the old order crumbling. The Confederation's strict technological hierarchy had been shattered. A species they had dismissed as primitive had not only mastered their technology, but had improved upon it in ways they hadn't thought possible. "The Arcturian Dominion," she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos, "moves to open formal negotiations with Earth regarding membership in this galactic cooperative." The chamber fell silent. The Arcturians were one of the Confederation's founding races. Their decision would trigger a cascade of changes throughout the galaxy. Lu Wei's hologram smiled. "We look forward to working together, High Counselor. The quantum network specifications are already being transmitted to your scientific council. Welcome to a new era." As the council chamber dissolved into intense discussion, Vextra realized that humanity had achieved something remarkable. They hadn't just defeated the Confederation militarily, they had fundamentally transformed the political landscape of the galaxy without firing a shot. The age of stagnation was over. The question now was, what would this new human-inspired era bring? New Dawn. 1 year after Earth's emergence on the galactic stage, Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Harmony Station, the massive space facility that served as the headquarters of the new galactic cooperative. Below her, Earth rotated serenely, its night side glittering with city lights, while ships from a dozen different species moved through nearby space. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," Dr. Maya Patel said, joining her at the window. "Sometimes I have to remind myself that we're not dreaming." Sarah nodded, watching as a Proximan crystal ship synchronized its quantum field with an Arcturian cruiser for a joint training exercise. The sight would have been unthinkable under the old Confederation system. Latest report from the Technology Exchange Program, Maya continued, bringing up a holographic display. "The Proximan crystalline computing matrices are integrating perfectly with our quantum network. They've already improved efficiency by 30%. That was the true victory, Sarah reflected. Not the military success, but the unprecedented cooperation that followed. Humanity's greatest contribution hadn't been their weapons, but their ability to inspire innovation and collaboration. Ambassador Lai Wei is requesting your presence in the main conference room," the station's AI announced. "The final holdouts from the Confederation are ready to begin negotiations." The two women shared a knowing look before heading to the conference room. The last remnants of the old order had finally recognized the inevitable. The galaxy was changing too fast for them to maintain their isolation. The conference room was a marvel of hybrid technology. Quantum fields maintained perfect atmospheric conditions for a dozen different species, while crystalline processors enabled instantaneous translation. Around the table sat representatives from the most conservative Confederation powers, including the massive Koldur, who had once dismissed humans as primitives. "Welcome to Harmony Station," Lai Wei began, her diplomatic skills having proven as valuable as any weapon in reshaping the galaxy. "We're here to discuss your formal integration into the cooperative." "Before we begin," Koldur rumbled, his voice humbler than it had been a year ago, "I must ask, how did you do it? How did your species advance so quickly?" Sarah stepped forward. This was a question she'd been waiting to answer. "We didn't advance quickly," she explained. "We advanced differently. While the Confederation built upon the same technological foundations for millennia, humanity explored countless alternative paths." She gestured, and the room's holographic system displayed their technological development. "When we discovered the crash destroyer 60 years ago, we didn't just copy your technology. We questioned everything about it. Why did it work the way it did? What other approaches might be possible? Every human advancement came from asking questions that the Confederation had stopped asking centuries ago." The Phoenix units, Maya added, weren't just new weapons. They represented a fundamentally different understanding of how matter and energy could interact. "We succeeded because we never accepted that there was only one path to advancement." The display shifted to show the current state of cooperative space. Thousands of quantum relays connected formerly isolated systems. Ships using hybrid technologies explored regions that had once been considered unreachable. Pre-FTL civilizations were being carefully introduced to the galactic community, their unique perspectives already contributing to new innovations. What you call rapid advancement, we continued, we call natural progress. The Confederation's rigid hierarchy stifled innovation. The cooperative encourages it. Every species brings their own unique approach to problem solving. And that's why we're here. Colder acknowledge. Our youngest citizens are demanding access to the quantum network. Our scientists are eager to participate in joint research projects. We can't remain isolated any longer. Sarah smiled. This was the real transformation, not conquest or domination, but the irresistible appeal of genuine progress. The cooperative welcomes all species who are ready to contribute and collaborate, she said. Your experience and knowledge are valuable. We just ask that you be ready to question old assumptions and explore new possibilities. As the negotiations proceeded, Sarah returned to the observation deck. A Proximan ship was testing a new hybrid drive system, its crystalline structure gleaming as it manipulated quantum fields in ways that combined their natural abilities with human theoretical frameworks. Message from Earth Defense Command, the station's AI announced. The first joint expedition to the galactic core is ready for departure. They're requesting final authorization. The expedition fleet appeared on the tactical display. Ships from 8 different species, each contributing their unique technologies and perspectives to the mission. It was everything humanity had hoped to achieve. Not dominance, but partnership in exploring the unknown. Authorization granted. Sarah replied. Tell them to ask lots of questions. As she watched the expedition disappear into quantum space, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had entered the galactic stage prepared for war, but had achieved something far greater, a revolution in how civilizations could interact and grow together. The age of stagnation was over. The age of collaboration had begun. And somewhere out there, in the vast unknown of space, new discoveries waited for those who dared to question, innovate, and imagine. The future was no longer about one species dominating others. It was about all species reaching for the stars together, each contributing their unique strength to the greatest adventure in galactic history. And that, Sarah knew, was humanity's greatest victory of all.